Welcome back, students. Today we are going to take up the topic scientific principles of chapter number 2. Now, before taking up the scientific principles, let us briefly learn about the evolution of management principles. In tracing the history of management, one comes across various schools of thought that have outlined principles of guide management practices. This school of thought may be divided into five distinctive phases. The first one is early perspective, the second one, classical management theory, the third is neoclassical theory, fourth is behavioral science approach, and the fifth one, modern management. Now let us see one by one each phrase. The first is early perspectives. The first known management idea were recorded in 3000 4000 BC. One pyramid built by Egyptian ruler Cheops required work to be done by 1 lakh men for over 20 years in 2900 BC. It covers 13 acres of land and measured 481 meters in height. The stone slabs had been moved thousands of kilometers of distance. As folklore goes, even the sound of a hammer was not heard in the village in the vicinity of the site of these pyramids. Such monumental work could not be completed without the adherence of principle of sound management. Next phrase is classical management theory. Now this phrase includes rational economic view, scientific management, administrative principle, and bureaucratic organization. While the rational economic view assumes that people are motivated by economic gains primarily, scientific management of F.W. Taylor and others emphasize one best way of production. Administrative theories personified by Henry Fayol looked at the best way to combine jobs and people into an efficient organization. Bureaucratic organization theories led by Max Weber looked at the ways of eliminating managerial inconsistencies due to abuse of power, which contributed to ineffectiveness. This was the era of industrial revolution and factory system of production. Large scale production would not have been possible without adherence to the principles governing organizing production based on division of labor and specialization. Relationship between man and the machine, managing people, and so on. The next phrase is neoclassical theory. This school of thought developed between 1920s to 1950s felt that employees simply do not respond rationally to rules, chains of authority, and economic incentives alone, but also guided by social needs, drives, and attitudes. Hawthorne studies at GEC, etc., were conducted then. It was quite natural that in the early phase of industrial revolution, the emphasis was on the development of techniques and technologies. The attention to the human factor was the silent aspect of this school of thought. This attention was to serve as a precursor to the development of behavior science. Next phrase is behavioral science approach. And is organizational behavioristic like Chris Agaris, Douglas McGregor, Abraham Maslow, and Frederick Herzberg use the knowledge of psychology, sociology, and anthropology to develop this approach. The underlying philosophy of organizational humanism is that individuals need to use all their capacities and creative skills at work as well as at home. Comes the most evolved phase, that is modern management. Now it sees modern management organization as a complex system and underlies contingency approach and use of modern techniques to solve the organizational and human problems. Now something about F.W. Taylor. Now basically he was the person who has developed this scientific management. F.W. Taylor was a person who within a short duration rose from rank of an ordinary apprentice to chief engineer in Medwell Steel Company, USA. Taylor conducted a number of experiments and came to conclusion that workers were producing much less than the targeted standard task. Also, both the parties, that is management and worker, are hostile towards each other. That means what? They both were thinking that they both are two separate entities. He gave a number of suggestions to solve the problem and correctly propounded the theory of scientific management to emphasize the use of scientific approach in managing an enterprise instead of hit and trial method. For his contribution, he is well known as the father of the scientific management. Scientific management attempts to eliminate waste to ensure maximum production at a minimum cost. Now, starting with the scientific principle, in 1911, F.W. Taylor has came up with the new concept of scientific principles of management, which was authorized in the 1912 and they started to follow by the organizations. Now, what is this scientific management? It is knowing exactly what you want your men to do and see to it that they do it in the best and the cheapest way. This definition was given by F.W. Taylor, and the one who is responsible for formulating this principle of scientific management. Now we'll talk about four scientific principles of management. The scientific management principles are, which were given by Taylor, is number one is science, not rule of thumb. Second is harmony, not discord. Third is cooperation, not individualism. Fourth is development of each and every person to his or her greatest efficiency. Let's understand in detail. The first one being science, not rule of thumb. Taylor believes that there was only one best way of doing things efficiently. He did not approve the rule of thumb, that is, a trial and error method. What he did was, what he stressed on was that each element of job should be analyzed properly and one best way of doing that work should be found out. So that becomes the standard method of doing that particular job. So that particular standard method is going to use throughout the organization. This is going to lead specialization also, and this is going to result in saving time because we are not going to waste anything using trial and error method. So he propagated science and not the rule of thumb. Secondly, harmony not discord. Now, according to this principle, harmony not discord, Taylor said that there should be absolute cooperation, there should be absolute harmony between the employees of an organization and the management of the organization. Both of them, employees as well as management, they should think they are the part of one organization. They are one, they are not two different entities. There is a need of complete mental revolution That is the complete change in thought process of thinking on part of employees as well as on the part of the management. For example, if formulating the policies, the management involves the management employees during that process, employees will be feeling the part of organization, they will be feeling more connected to the organization, and management will not face much of the problem in implementation of those policies. Why? Because those policies were established and framed with the concern of the employees by the equal involvement of the employees. They should not be working at cross purposes. Both of them should think for one another. The management shares the gains of the company with the workers, and the workers, their part, they should work hard for the betterment of the organization and to increase the profit of the company. Next principle is cooperation and not individualism. This means that there should be complete cooperation between management and laborers instead of individualism. Competition should be replaced by cooperation. There shouldn't be any kind of competition between management and the laborers. This is just an extension of previous principle, that is harmony, not discord. For all important decisions taken by the management, workers should be taken into confidence, and at the same time workers should not go on strikes and make demands which our management will not be able to fulfill. Workers should put forth their demand keeping the organization in mind, because we know at all points of time it is for the betterment of organization that all decisions are to be taken. There should be open communication between management and the workers. The management should be able to communicate to the workers that right now the organization is not in the good financial position to meet your expectation, so you need to cooperate with us. In the same way, the workers should also feel comfortable enough to put forth their problems in front of the management, that these are our grievances and these are the reason why we are not happy in this organization, and these are our demands. So there has to be two-way communication process. The last principle, that is development of each and every person to his or her greatest efficiency. Now here Taylor says that every person should be scientifically selected. Now what does it means? After you have scientifically analyzed each and every element of job and you have found out that this is the standard procedure for doing the job, keeping that in mind, you should select the right person who will be able to perform that job in the best possible manner. By doing so, you are going to enable that person to work to his greatest efficiency. Only if you are going to select the right person for the right job, then only you will be helping him to reach to his greatest efficiency. Efficient employees will be able to produce more and earn more, and this way ensure the greatest efficiency and prosperity for both employees as well as for the organization. So these were the main scientific principles which were given by the Taylor. I hope you are clear with the topic. Thank you.